I remember that night with absolute clarity. My wife had insisted that we host a dinner for her coworkers and their spouses, emphasizing the importance of networking and building connections. Wanted to support her, I spent hours preparing, cleaning the house meticulously, cooking a carefully planned 3-course meal, and ensuring the wine was perfectly chilled. I wanted to impress her guests. To make her proud, the evening began well. Conversations flowed easily over appetizers, and our guests seemed to enjoy themselves, offering compliments on both the food and the atmosphere. I started to relax, thinking that maybe the night wouldn't be as stressful as I had anticipated. But then, everything changed. By the time my wife was on her 3rd glass of wine, the conversation had shifted to relationships. She turned to me with that familiar, mischievous smile, one I had learned to associate with trouble. Looking at her colleagues, she said, "You know what's funny?" Her voice was slightly louder than necessary, her tone playful but laced with something sharper. When we first met, I thought he would be this amazing catch, tall, successful, impressive in all areas. She dragged out the last words, emphasizing them with a theatrical wink. Someone's husband chuckled and asked, "And he isn't?" The table erupted in laughter. I forced a smile, assuming it was just light-hearted teasing. But she wasn't finished. She held up her hand, pinching her thumb and index finger together with barely any space between them. Let's just say, some things don't measure up to expectations. Laughter filled the room again, louder this time. My face burned as I stared at my plate, wishing I could disappear. But she continued, "Honestly, it's like being married to a teenage boy. Quick to start, quicker to finish. If you know what I mean." More laughter. A few of her colleagues glanced at me with awkward smiles, as if unsure whether to find it funny or feel sorry for me. One of the women tried to change the subject, clearly sensing my discomfort, but my wife waved her off. "No, really, it's fine," she insisted. "We all have our crosses to bear. Mine's just smaller than most." She raised her glass in a mock toast, and after a hesitant pause, the others joined in. The atmosphere had shifted. The laughter now carried a tinge of discomfort. I sat there frozen, my appetite gone. The conversation eventually moved on, but the damage had been done. I saw it in their eyes. Pity, embarrassment, the uncomfortable awareness of having witnessed something they shouldn't have. My confidence, my dignity, my most intimate vulnerabilities had just been served up as the evening's entertainment. But what hurt the most wasn't the public humiliation. It was a realization that my wife, the person who was supposed to be my partner, my closest ally, had so little respect for me. I made it through the rest of the evening on autopilot, clearing plates, refilling drinks, forcing smiles when necessary. But inside, something was breaking. Something fundamental was shifting in how I saw my marriage, my wife, and myself. When the last guest finally left, she acted as if nothing had happened. When I confronted her about it, she waved it off. "Oh, lighten up," she said, rolling her eyes. It was just a joke. Everyone makes playful jabs at their partners. You're being too sensitive. That night, as she slept soundly beside me, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Her words played on a loop in my mind. It wasn't the first time she had made comments about my height or my performance in bed, but it was the first time she had done it so publicly, so deliberately. And for the first time, I saw it for what it truly was. That dinner party wasn't an isolated incident. As I lay there in the darkness, memories flooded back, moments I had dismissed, excused, or tried to laugh off. A slow, steady stream of small wounds that had drained my self-worth over the years. In the beginning, her comments had been subtle, almost disguised as affection. "Maybe you should wear shoes with thicker soles," she'd suggest before a work event. "It might help you look more authoritative." I had laughed, thinking she was just being helpful. Then came the bedroom remarks. What started as playful teasing turned into sharp-edged criticism. "Is that it?" she'd ask with an exaggerated sigh. "Already?" Or worse, she'd turn away and mutter, "Don't worry about it. I'm used to it by now." I tried harder to please her, but no matter what I did, I was met with more disappointment, more sighs, more subtle shakes of her head. Even my professional success wasn't enough. When I got promoted 3 years ago, I came home excited to tell her. Her response? That's nice, I guess. They must not have had many options this year. Then she immediately shifted the conversation to her own career. At family gatherings, she introduced me with backhanded compliments. This is my husband, she'd say with a perfectly rehearsed smile. Not quite what I expected when I dreamed about marriage as a little girl, but we make do, don't we? Even my hobbies weren't spared. When I started learning guitar, something I had always wanted to do, she laughed. It's cute, she told her friends. His fingers are too small to reach the chords properly, but he tries so hard. I quit after 3 months. The pattern was always the same. She built me up in private just enough to tear me down in public. She told me I looked handsome before a night out, only to tell everyone later how she had to help me coordinate my outfit because I dressed like a clueless teenager. And then there was social media. The morning after the dinner party, I scrolled through her Instagram and saw a new post. A perfectly curated photo of our evening. Amazing dinner with amazing friends, my amazing husband who made it all happen. The comments were flooded with heart emojis and couple goals messages. That's when the truth hit me. I was living in 2 different marriages. The one she displayed online, where we were the perfect, happy couple, and the real one where I was constantly reminded I wasn't enough. As sunlight filtered to the bedroom curtains, I realized with stunning clarity, this wasn't love. This was emotional abuse, and it had been happening for years. Once I saw it for what it was, I couldn't unsee it. I started noticing other things, like how she always kept her phone face down, how she stepped outside to take work calls at odd hours. 2 days after the dinner party, she left her phone on the counter while showering. It buzzed repeatedly. I had never invaded her privacy before. I believed in trust, even if I was the only one practicing it. But something compelled me to look. The lock screen showed messages from someone saved as work project lead. The previews read, asterisk, missing you already. Asterisk, asterisk, last night was incredible. Asterisk, asterisk, when can you get away again? Asterisk, my hands shook as I picked up the phone. By some cruel coincidence, she had never changed her password. I opened the messages and the room spun around me. Hundreds of texts, explicit photos, hotel reservations, plans for their next meetup. The affair had been going on for months with someone from her office. And then the final blow messages about me. He just sits there and takes it. She had written the night of the dinner party. Asterisk, I practically called him tiny in front of everyone, and he still served dessert with a smile. It's almost too easy. Asterisk, her lover had replied, asterisk, that's because he knows he can't do better than you. Asterisk, I put the phone down, my world collapsing around me. I had spent years trying to be enough for someone who had never valued me. And now, I had the proof she never would. Her equal-ranking colleague, a man whose wife had unknowingly shared meals with me at our dinner table, remained oblivious to what I had discovered. But I was not. I had printed out crucial documents and screenshots, securing them in a folder that now rested discreetly within my briefcase. I was preparing for the inevitable. That afternoon, I made a quiet yet decisive call to my best friend, asking if I could stay at his place for a few days. He didn't ask too many questions. He simply said yes. Shortly after, I contacted a lawyer. The wheels were in motion. That evening, I played my role flawlessly. I asked my wife about her day, made dinner, and even suggested watching her favorite show. All the while, the folder sat hidden near the door, and she sat next to me on the couch, smiling at her phone. Good news at work? I asked casually. Just a project coming together, she replied without looking up. Nothing you'd understand. I nodded, sipping my wine, studying her face. This was the woman I had shared my life with for 8 years. The woman who had slowly chipped away at my confidence, who had ridiculed me while simultaneously betraying me in the most profound way possible. I love you, I said, testing the words, seeing if they still held any weight. She glanced up briefly, responding automatically, love you too, before turning her attention back to her phone. In that moment, everything crystallized. I wasn't just a victim of her scorn. I was being deceived by someone who felt no real love for me. And yet, what I felt wasn't heartbreak, nor was it anger. It was something far more powerful, clarity. It was time to end the charade. The next day, I executed my plan with precision. I transferred half of our joint account funds into a new personal account. I met with my lawyer again to finalize our strategy. I even took the afternoon off to move essential belongings to my friend's place while she was at work. Everything was set. That evening, I prepared her favorite meal, salmon with roasted vegetables and a chilled glass of white wine. When she walked through the door, she looked surprised by the romantic setup. "What's the occasion?" she asked, tossing her keys on the counter. "Just felt like doing something nice." I replied smoothly, pouring her wine. She took a seat, immediately checking her phone, probably texting him. We ate mostly in silence, the atmosphere charged with the weight of what was to come. Finally, I spoke. "I need to talk to you about something important." She sighed, already irritated. "Can it wait? I'm exhausted." "No, it can't." I reached for my briefcase, pulling out the folder and placing it on the table between us. "I know," I said simply. "I know about the affair." Her expression flickered between shock, denial, and calculation before settling on something colder, indignation. "What are you talking about?" she demanded. I opened the folder, laying out each piece of evidence like a prosecutor in court. Hotel receipts, screenshots of messages, restaurant bills, phone records. "You went through my phone?" she snapped, trying to shift the blame. "That's a complete invasion of privacy." "Yes, I did," I admitted, my voice calm. "After years of your emotional abuse and public humiliation, I finally listened to my instincts." She scoffed. "Abuse? You're being dramatic. You've mocked my height, belittled my career, made jokes about my performance in bed, all while sleeping with someone else." I countered. Her demeanor changed instantly. Tears welled in her eyes, her voice softening. "I made a mistake. It didn't mean anything. We can work through this." I shook my head. The affair is just one part of why this marriage is over. Even if it never happened, I wouldn't stay with someone who treats me with such contempt. She reached for my hand. I pulled away. "You don't understand," she pleaded. "I've been under so much pressure at work." He was just there. It was a moment of weakness. 7 months of moments. I corrected. "And the things you said about me." Her tears vanished, her eyes flashing with something venomous. "Fine. You want the truth? I've been unhappy. What did you expect? You never satisfied me, not financially, not emotionally, not physically." I exhaled slowly, almost relieved. At last, she was honest. "That's exactly why I'm leaving," I said. "I deserve better." She scoffed. "You? Better than me? Good luck finding anyone who'll put up with your limitations." She gestured dismissively at me, as if I were beneath her. For the first time in years, I felt nothing but peace. "I've already spoken to a lawyer." I told her. "The divorce papers will be ready tomorrow. I'll be staying elsewhere until it's finalized." Panic flashed across her face. "You can't be serious. Where will you go? What will people think?" "I don't care what people think anymore. That's always been your concern, not mine." I stood up, moving toward the door. She grabbed my arm. "Wait, we need to talk about this. You can't just throw away 8 years. I gently pried her fingers off. "You threw them away," I said. "One lie, one insult, one betrayal at a time." For the first time in our marriage, I saw something different in her eyes. Not love, not even remorse. Respect. "You will regret this," she whispered. I smiled. "That's exactly what I'm counting on." I walked out of our house that night with just a suitcase and my laptop. The cool night air felt electric against my skin. My friend was waiting at the end of the block. As I climbed into his car, my wife's voice followed me, switching between rage and desperation. "You think this is some movie moment? You think you're teaching me a lesson? Get back inside." I didn't look back. Her tone softened. "Please," she called. "I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever you want." For a split second, old habits made me hesitate. Then my phone buzzed. A message from him. Sent to both of us. Asterisk, is everything okay? Hey, you're not answering my calls. Asterisk. She must have realized I had his number. A scream of frustration ripped for her throat as I closed the car door. The days that followed were a blur of logistics, lawyers, bank accounts, moving arrangements. She bombarded me with texts, showing up at my office, sending her sister to reason with me. Nothing worked. On the fourth day, I returned with a police escort to collect my last belongings. You called the police on me? She hissed. I'm just here for my things. As I packed, she asked, what about all the good times? I paused. You threw those away. She scoffed. This is why I needed someone else. You're too weak to even fight for our marriage. I met her gaze. I'm not fighting for something that hurts me. That's not weakness. That's self-respect. She didn't respond. As I walked out, she let out a single, raw sob. It should have hurt me. It didn't. 6 months later, I was thriving. New job, new apartment, new life. At a wedding, I saw her again. She looked polished but alone. You look well, she said. So do you? I replied. A pause. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. 6 months ago, that would have mattered. Now they were just words. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said, and walked away. Because my greatest revenge? It wasn't anger. It wasn't payback. It was simply living well.